Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Roll to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show, and we got a good one for you here today. Since we were not the PBA League experts or go-tos, we decided to bring in a better one.
I mean, when you said we've got a good one today, I was about to say, no, we don't have Jana coming on. She was unfortunately busy, so we had to settle for the next motive person down the line.
Oh, as usual, I'm Barnzy, joined by the inimitable Stuart Williams. How's life in Austin, Texas today?
Good. Yeah, good. Yeah, can't complain. I mean, sure. I can because I'm versatile, but I'm not going to.
Well, we don't have him for such a long time today, so I think we should bring in the previous player of the year and the most recent league MVP, and he earned it in style. Andrew Anderson, how are you?
Hey guys, good. Happy to be here. Well, sometimes seeing Stu isn't as pleasurable as some others, but we'll take it.
I mean, that is normally the other way around on this show, I gotta say.
I mean, you of all people, like, you're sticking up for the Vice guy. I mean, like,
oh God, here we go.
I mean, all he had to do was get his Eileen, and he'd have been fine. I'm surprised he didn't have it queued up.
You know, I hit karma for a long time for that one, so thankfully she finally settled down.
Oh no, I thought finally the drills had paid off. You should tell Chris. You see, in those pressure moments, that's where that practice comes off. That repetition.
All those bowling pin shots really paid off for me. Yep.
So anyway, we had interesting journey. Your team, you quickly went from 6 to 5. I personally think, looking at the league this season, that was actually helpful. Because I think it just made people like kind of focus in and not think that somebody else could pick up the slack. Because your team bowled really well, Chris's team bowled really well. You're both basically in the same position the whole year.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, there was plenty of times where Thomas probably should have bowled, but we were riding such a hot streak, and you know, it is definitely more of a confidence thing for some of the guys when they're not looking over their shoulders. Like, hey, am I going to get pulled if I throw a bad shot? Things of that nature. So I definitely think it was a benefit to us to a point that Thomas had got injured for a little bit, but we had contemplated for a moment if we were going to, you know, swap him out. But I actually thought that we were riding such a good wave, and Thomas was being such a good teammate regardless. He was there even while injured, supporting the team, that there was just no changes need to be made.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's always easier to say that, but if one of you guys is bowling like an asshole, then it's kind of useful to have an extra guy. I mean, yeah. I just feel like the most awkward part of the league this year was they introduced the 6th player while basically eliminating the managers by the schedule, and then said, okay, guys, one of you gets to be the bad guy. Cool.
Yeah.
Who was that for your team?
I was the bad guy. And a good guy. It depends how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah. But it kind of made it a little bit less awkward, I guess, having those conversations when, for the majority of the time, it was just, and you had 5 really good bowlers, so that is also makes life easier. It wasn't like one of you was particularly struggling. Like, I know that you started having a few conversations with Ogle, and I think you scared him a little bit when he started thinking about things he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple moments that I could have maybe kept my mouth shut, and there's a couple moments where I probably should have spoken up more. I think for me personally, the tough part, and you know, you can ask my teammates if I handled it well or not, but it is difficult. Like, even if I was to bowl at Barnes this year, but like bowling with Rash, bowling with Ogle, these guys are older than me. They're more experienced than me in some right. And so it's kind of hard to tell somebody like that, like, hey, I need you to do this, or like, I need you to maybe step up in this scenario. Or even Rash handled really well. Many times I put him in the 2 or 3 hole, and he's one of the greatest of all time. So it was awkward for me being put in that position to have to tell somebody that I've looked up to for so long, hey, I need you to maybe take a step back here and be a better version of yourself in this type of environment.
I was going to say, through Team USA, through college bowling, through a lot of places, you've been with a lot of polarizing teammates.
Yeah.
Very strong personalities, and including myself and Tommy and those guys in that group. You were at Weber for a hot minute.
Yep.
And you've had several roles within those groups. And so I was going to ask, were you the leader of this group, or in the middle? And then because of that very dynamic, how was it? I mean, you have 2 of the more polarizing personalities between AJ and Sean, and both on the same team.
Yep.
One of the 2 of us on this show nicknamed your team Ticking Time Bomb.
It's I'd be lying if I said we felt that at times. We felt like, especially I don't know what match we're in. I mean, every match brought its own different situations, and it was kind of tough on me at times picking a lineup, because I did feel like maybe certain bowlers shouldn't be around each other in lineups based on the amount of emotion they might show in any given situation. So if you go back and look at the lineups based on who we bowled, you'll start to understand the strategy I put together based on who we were bowling and how energetic the match might be. And then obviously in Portland, like, there's just so much energy in the building. We are a ticking time bomb. I mean, if you watch game 3 of the match against Motown, that's exactly what, I was scared of at times. We had some bad momentum, took a missed spare, and the next thing you know, we're averaging 7.5 on the first ball for a 4-frame stretch. I mean, it's just, and it
anybody who's bowled there knows exactly what you're talking about too. It's like one bad shot, and then all of a sudden, no one can hit the headpin.
Yeah, I mean, and thankfully, we turned it around. We got back to the left lane, which everyone knows is the better lane. And so, man, just a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking. Like you said, I had to rely on a lot of team experience in old environments and what worked, what didn't work. And I bowled with AJ now for 4 years in this, and of course part of Team USA. But that was my first experience with Rash and Ogle and Thomas Larson. And I keep bringing Thomas up because Thomas was still, as much as he wasn't bowling much, like, he just never got out of place. He never said anything over the top. He always was like an even keeled, you guys got this. He whispered in my ear some strategy at times to help as well, so I could take my mind off of it. There was a couple matches that I personally bowled really bad because I was actually so worried that if I got the lineup right or wrong, that I just wasn't even focused on my own bowling. So definitely a huge learning curve for me.
When Stu brought this up, because he bowled with Velmo for so long, he felt like that impacted his bowling a little bit at times. That so concerned about everything else, that it kind of took away from, oh yeah, I still need to be me on this team, since I am the, and he wasn't as much as he needed to be. Yeah, it was pretty impressive, but winning makes a lot of things go easier.
Yeah, yes, it does.
I was about to say, like, to me, we can talk about lineups and tactics and everything. All those things seem cool when you win. Like, so it's like, oh yeah, that's it. Like, have you ever heard of a team win and go, man, we fucking hate each other?
No, I haven't.
Like, it's all like sunshines and rainbows, and then 12 months later, everybody's like, fuck that guy. And it's just like, I do think sometimes we get wrapped up in a lot of that. Like, to me, I think that the most energy ever in the PBA is used on the PBA League draft. And
yes,
to a large extent, you've got
until this year for basically 4 shots for half.
Yeah, you've got 50 really good bowlers having to throw a couple of shots each, and somebody's going to fuck it up and somebody's not. And like, they use way too much theory about it. Like, oh, well, this guy can't shoot spares. Well, if he strikes 4 times, who cares? He doesn't shoot any spares.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, I guess maybe maybe I don't read enough into it, but like, I just think that everybody gets like so like stressed out over it. I mean, like, Timmy picks Arturo every year. There's like almost no other team in the league would pick Arturo, and he strikes every shot. And he's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And when we went into the draft, like my mindset to Leto was like, just get guys who can throw 4 good shots on television. You know, like that's all I wanted. Like, I mean, it's not no shot at anybody in our past, but when we've gotten to Portland in the past, we've been a very nervous team on TV. Oh my God. We look nervous. We're visibly nervous. And you can tell this year, I mean, I went back and watched it, and we actually look like we're competent PBA high-level bowlers on television. And there was just a huge change just in the appearance of what we look like. So I think that the confidence from that helped a lot. But I agree with you. Like, at the end of the day, and I told the guys, at the end of the day, you just have to throw a couple good shots a game. And you guys have done this in so many different environments of your life. You're not on this stage without throwing a ton of good shots. So what's a couple more?
Yeah, I guess you had everybody except Thomas is a 3 or 4 time veteran of the league itself.
Yeah.
You know, Ogle has now made 2 or 3, 4 shows on his own. I guess he and AJ are probably the least experienced as far as singles shows, but have both had, you know, really good seasons the last couple of years.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, it was impressive. Your guys all bowled well. I do think while Sean can be pretty polarizing in the team environment most of the time, he's much more of an asset than and like I say, winning makes everybody a better team player.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was going to go one of 2 ways. We were going to look like geniuses, or we were going to just go down the rabbit hole of what everybody thought. We thought we were idiots for picking Rash and Thomas. I mean, Ogle, nobody really said anything about picking Ogle, but if you look at the stats, and I loved Ogle, I really did enjoy bowling with him. We didn't really know each other before this year, and we've become much closer. It was an awesome time bowling with him, but nobody ever said anything about that pick. Anybody said anything about our team was always about Sean and possibly Thomas. And, you know, Sean on the TV shows. I mean, he really showed up. So, like, it turned out
when
to
you
be the
lost
right
to
decision.
us.
Yes. Yeah. We felt
one
bad.
of our 3 victories on the season.
You guys on TV were a hard team to beat, man. You guys
right? They only showed up for the cameras.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Needed more cameras. Need more cameras during the matches.
Dan Knowlton says, "Why does it appear so hard to shoot spares in Portland?" I think this every week. I think that guys make spares shooting look very difficult every week. I don't know what you're talking about Portland, but in Portland, having 15 minutes between shots and sometimes 45 minutes in between spare shots isn't necessarily sweet. And in Portland, once one guy misses, it's like when everybody goes up to check the approach.
Oh, yeah.
That's the truth, isn't it?
When AJ fouled in
which time?
When AJ fouled in
the one they called?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Okay, guys. When AJ fouled and he shot the spare, the next game we're up by like 50 going in the 9th frame, and I think you can visibly see in my face, please don't foul. And so, like, you just don't want a trend to start, you know? Yeah. Like, after he fouled, I promise you, I checked the approach. I was like, wonder what happened. You know,
well, nothing happens. He fouls every tournament.
He's very close to that line.
The one thing is, because that center is 2 different sides, the TV pair it's slicker than the other side.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I'm always actually shocked that, because there's more than just AJ that gets that close to the line. Prather does, a few other guys, Wes used to, and I'm missing a few others off the top of my head. They get really close every shot. I'm always surprised that they don't foul more on their first shot over there.
I was about to say Jesper gets real close.
Yeah. Jesper on that side gets within a foot. So, I mean, they must be icy slick.
Shit.
But I do think, like what you're saying, because you only get what you get 2 shots on each lane when you come over for the TV show. You're on the other side. Unless you shot spares over there, it's been at least a half hour since you threw a spare shot, and you probably only shot 1 or 2 over there. I made sure our team shot a lot because our team didn't strike nearly as much as some of the other teams. So that was kind of what we built on. It's a Carolyn kind of built team. It was a bunch of guys that can make spares and do that. Well, we have to make spares, and we did, but we didn't strike enough.
Yeah.
So I honestly I can't stand this point. Bowling's so easy, and you want to take away one of the few things that you're supposed to do. Like, I'm with Wriggles. The foul line shouldn't be a thing. What? So every time I need a single pin, I should just be able to walk over and kick it over? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's gotta be somewhere. So
there's variables in every sport. I mean, what are we trying to do?
The only person I've ever heard bring this up was Bill O'Neill because he couldn't stop fouling, and the second he stopped fouling, he didn't think it was a thing anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even understand how people foul.
If it's not a big deal, do what Jesper does. Just slide a foot behind the foul line.
Yeah. But
also then not a problem, because 61 versus 60, if 59.5 is not a big deal, then 61 shouldn't be a big deal either.
I'm telling you, if I fouled one time on television, I wouldn't be within a foot of that line the rest of the tournament.
That's why Jesper's where he is, right?
No, I have no clue. I mean,
Jesper bowled a tournament in like Slovakia or Slovenia or somewhere like this, and he lost to the local guy, and he still maintains he didn't foul, but he used to be close to the foul line, and he needed a pin to win.
I know.
And the foul line went off, and he goes, I didn't foul, but how's he ever going to get that overturned when he's playing against the local guy? So he lost the tournament. So then he just didn't foul anymore.
I'll never foul again.
So he was like 2.5 feet behind for a long time. He's all the way up to, he's only about a foot behind now.
Yeah.
Did you hear Gottschall's thing at the Masters when we were in Detroit? That was pretty funny. So I was on Jesper's squad, and Gottschall said, all right, guys, so we're not doing the I didn't foul nonsense. He goes, if you didn't foul, I don't care what the people on your pair say. Get somebody, they'll call me, I'll come down, it'll still be a foul, and we'll work it out, was basically what he said, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, however, if you do have, we can see that there's a mechanical volley. He said there's one exception to this rule. If Jesper says he didn't foul and it puts a foul up, I'm going to ask the official, is Jesper on the lane? If he's not, just go ahead and change it. And he literally said that in the roll call.
Unless he falls over forward.
Is he on the lane? No. Okay, then he's good. You can change that to whatever he wants.
So true.
So that was Gottschall's theory on the fouling.
Yeah, back when he was tournament director still.
Yeah, exactly. So you went through. I mean, AJ felt like he used the entirety of the motive range when he bowled just the finals match. I think it seemed like he was all over the map. You didn't really seem to change that much. Why did you think AJ needed to? What did you see that meant you didn't need to? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that everybody in pressure situations caters to certain misses. I think my miss is definitely firm. I wasn't going to get out of the big bowling balls no matter what, and so I came there prepared with. I was using a Crimson Jackal in the finals. In the semis, I threw a Pride Liberty, but it really didn't end up being the correct ball at the end of the day. The Crimson, I actually had 2 different ones. Had quite a mishap that people are probably going to love the story for, but I had a shiny-ish touch weaker one, and when we say touch weaker, it might have been like 1/4 of an inch difference in pin, right? But it was shinier. And then I had a dull one for the right lane because everybody knows the right lane's the tighter one. It gets a little snugger down lane, so I was trying to use the one that picked up faster on the right lane. The fun story about it is in the finals, we have the front 4. We moved to the right lane. Both my Crimsons are on the rack. I didn't really realize there's supposed to be one on each lane. I throw the wrong ball.
Is that what the washout was?
Yeah, I threw the wrong ball.
I'm like,
boy.
wow, that looked like that was online. Like
I won need a PBA washout. First and last time I'll ever do that. So love the shot. Came back, asked my team, was that horrible? Because I don't know how in the world I could PBA washout. But what I noticed is that both my jackals were on the rack, and immediately had one of those, self-pity moments of, you've got to be kidding me, man. Are you, I'm saying some really bad words to myself. Thankfully made the spare. And then in the 10th frame, I threw the right one. And of course I had ball motion again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, my thought
Not
was
my proudest moment.
You had to throw that strike in the 10th frame. I'm like, it's one thing to throw a strike in the 10th when you've struck in the 5th.
Yeah.
When you miss the head pin in the 5th frame, that shot in the 10th is way hard. So I thought you had to move, had to do,
I mean, I definitely made a move because I'm making a guess, right? Like I made the 10th frame was a couple boards left. I threw it a little slower. I mean, there was some moves there, but the easiest move was, let's just throw the bowling ball that's been hooking in the right spot in that lane the whole time.
Yeah, let's throw the right ball.
Drama queen, just drawing attention, making hero worship for yourself.
I appreciate that. I do. It felt nice. But no, it's just one of those. I was so in the moment, my team has the front four. I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. Let's get this page rolling. Let's throw a good one here. And I was so focused on just making a good shot. And my mind was like, the imagery was there. I loved the shot. I'll throw that shot over and over again, just with the other bowling ball. Kind of embarrassing, but you live and you learn. And thankfully it didn't cost us the match.
And for those of you who don't know, the first game you guys lost, didn't bowl a great game. It was 170, I believe. It didn't look too comfortable. Didn't look all that lined up. You do go to the second game. You have a good start. You have a washout. You have another strike or two. You have another washout, I believe.
That was game 3. So game 2 is the game where both teams are off to a strong start. Sterner opens in the 6th, and we're feeling really good. And then we have spares do frames, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. And so going into the 10th, I can strike out for 235 and they can strike out for 240. And so I go first and I throw all 3 to make Kyle have to double. And so, Kyle 4 pins. And then game 3 is when we have 2 washouts, where I'll tell you, going into that 10th frame of game 3, after I wash out in the 5th, throwing the wrong ball, and then Ogle washes out in the 9th, he does not know I threw the wrong ball. So he's like, whoa, the same thing happened to me that happened to you. I said, actually, that's impossible. But I'll go with it. In the moment, you're just like, yeah, dude, I don't know how you washed out there. Because I really didn't. I was like, oh, my God, like I can't believe his ball can miss the head pin. He slams on it so hard.
Well, if you throw it to 2 on the tight lane, you can.
Yeah, it's just not. He had to be very good to it at the bottom for it to peel on the right lane from that spot.
Yeah, and he can make his ball hook in some crazy places. But, wow. Yeah. Speaking of the long and short of it, Mr. Eddie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're the worst. You are the worst. So, outside of PBA League, we don't really have motive people on very often. So, tell us about a couple of the balls. I think people are seeing this Sub-Zero Forge, this blue and white one. It's quite obnoxious color-wise.
A little bit, but that's okay.
It kind of shows up. I was about to say, we've got one of those as well. Ours is pink, white, and blue, I think it is now.
Yeah.
So, what's going on with that one? It seems to me a little bit better than the other obnoxious color ball that you had. What was that one? The Evoke?
Yeah. I mean, so first and foremost, you alluded to it earlier. I think the biggest shout out that needs to be had is Gianna winning the Clash. I've gotten the pleasure of coaching her a few times at Turbo. I've never met somebody that has such a killer instinct for throwing good shots, but can be so humble and just so nonchalant about it. It's really awesome. So big shout out to Gianna, because she's going to do a lot of winning in her lifetime. And I think that was just the beginning of it. And unfortunately, my boy KP was on the wrong end of it. But I'm just super happy for her from not only a motor standpoint, but just super proud of like the human that she is and being able to pull that off. But when it comes to motor bowling balls, always in the progress of filling spots in the bag like everybody is, and bowling on 32 mils of 2 oil, 30 mils. We didn't have a whole lot of options of the tumbly side where we had something that's going to glue to the lane. And so that's exactly what this is meant to do. Sub-Zero forge is just a suction cup to the lane. I would argue it's probably the best forge we've had. When I first joined Motive, we had the Forge Flare. It didn't handle oil really well. It slimed up a little bit. So this is an updated version of that holds, that doesn't slime up as much and is usable for a longer amount of time. But just really trying to fill gaps, trying to make sure that every type of bowler is happy. The Evoke, although a lot of shelf appeal, the type of motion that it came out to be a little cleaner and quicker than we were expecting. So having a slower response option in that same realm is really important. And for me personally, it's nice to have that type of ball. I didn't use it at the league much, but obviously AJ got to throw it super hard, stay a little closer to friction. So it made sense, as AJ was going through his bowling bag of the transitions. He just didn't have the clear one piece there that matched up to both lanes, where I thankfully had 2 of that option.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly with the balls that fascinates me that nobody throws anymore, that I think still really good, is the Ghost. Nobody ever throws that one anymore, but I've always seen people have a lot of success with that one. Maria throws it a little bit, but just in general.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with the Ghost is just it's on top of the oil a little bit. When we were bowling on 27 mils, when we bowl on fire, even when we bowl on, ice a little bit, it's in play. But it's really, when we have so much oil in the lane, especially with the Brunswick oil, it's just on top of the oil a little bit. It skips the zone a little bit. I already 210 enough. So if I feel like my ball's on top of the oil, I'm not going to have a good time, especially following the likes of Balmo and those guys. So it's going to be used more in like USPC events than it would be PBA events.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I like I say, I laugh with Chris about that all the time. I'm like, I actually don't know if my score would be influenced greatly if they just took the 2-pin out of the rack. Because obviously I wouldn't get as many hits for like real strikes, but at the same time, the amount of times I wouldn't leave the 2-pin might balance out. Yeah. I remember one year we bowled the World Series when it was in the last one in South Point, and out of my top 10 leaves, 6 of the 10 involved the 2-pin, and I was like, might be doing something wrong.
Thanks, Demi. I appreciate that message. But I'm with you.
Says congratulations, Andrew, to him and his team. His performance is one of the best the league's ever seen, and he's been involved in a couple of them himself. So,
yeah. I think something I just want to mention about the league. 2 things. One, I wasn't aware of the Wes situation, so I don't think any of my team would have been celebrating on the lane as Wes is stepping up for that 10th frame. So Wes has been our kryptonite in some sort of fashion. Like when we've got knocked out by Portland both times, it's come down to Wes in the 10th frame knocking us out. And so it was a full circle moment for me, looking up to that and wanting to be that person at some point in my life. And so it happening in Portland against the Portland Lumberjacks, as I know Timmy loves that team more than anything. It was a full circle moment for me, watching Wes throw those shots. And so, shout out to Big Wes, Big Nasty. I was living vicariously through him, whooping our butts all those years. And so I learned a lot from him in those situations of how to manage, the emotions.
Yeah, Wes has thrown some great shots in Portland. I think that, but on that, I think that everybody takes everything way too personally.
Yeah.
I never thought anything about you guys. You guys are allowed to celebrate.
It's okay to be happy.
Yeah. We've gotten a little bit of backlash is all.
Yeah, but that's because people are just assholes.
Yeah.
If they want to scream and they want their team to win and your team won, trust me, if me and Rash were on the same team, they'd have known about it. Because I'd have been egging him on and he'd have been egging me on, and we might have been stood on the ball return yelling, "How'd you like your hometown heroes now?"
Yeah.
I'd have been reminded of Danny Wiseman style.
Fair enough, man. I'll tell you, one of the craziest shots I've ever been a part of is when they're chanting Lumberjacks as I need a strike to win.
Right.
I never thought that was coming. you can see me smile and look at the crowd like, holy shit, like, what is this? Okay, like, this is what they want their team to win. Yeah.
And it's one of the few times you really went, huh? Yeah, it's definitely a bit. Now, I don't think adrenaline plays the same factor in bowling as it does sometimes in, say, hockey or football or
right.
But yeah, I've never heard the crowd cheer against. Even when we bowled the Weber Cup, that was actually one of my complaints, was that the English crowd wasn't.
Got kind of obnoxious the last time.
Yeah, the last couple they
enjoyed it,
but yeah, I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. So
I mean, hometown crowd. I had no ill will towards it, but in that moment, I'm trying to like find some way of throwing a really good shot here. And your mind wanders all the time. And so my mind was so focused on the shot that afterwards I didn't know what to scream. I didn't know what to scream. So I felt like I realized what happened to Pete on the US Open show. You just kind of blurt stuff out, and then that's what happened. And so I was
yours was actually in sentence, and the words were in the same order they normally would be, though.
Yeah, I was trying to get the point across that you were chanting the wrong thing, because the night before in the semifinals, they were chanting, our team name and MVP, and that was such a cool moment. And then the very next night, I'm getting the full-on home crowd treatment. Please don't strike here. I'm like, okay, I'm giving it to you guys. Like, here you go. Here it is. And so
that I still think the crowd in Portland's pretty tame for that, thoh. Like
it was, yeah.
Like if we were bowling like that and it was in England and me and Dom were on the same team, I think it could kind of get a little bit more spicy.
Yeah, I mean, Stu, have you bowled the Swedish League for Pergamon? Yeah.
No, I'll never bowl for Pergamon.
Okay.
I'm totally against that scenario.
Yeah.
But yes, I understand the Swedish League. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so I would equate that to the Swedish League a little bit. I went to bowl the Swedish League with Izgota against Bergamon, and every shot, everybody is just fist pumping, going absolute nuts. That's what the league feels like. And I want to petition to put Arturo on a Swedish League team, because
he's bowled Swedish League before.
Has he?
Yeah,
my God. Him getting on the lanes, I love it. I personally love it. I was trying to give him a high five, dude. He is so meaningful when he's saying all those things. Like, I thought, like, when he got off the lane, he might smile and laugh and joke about it. So I was like trying to give him a fist bump, like, hey, nice shot. There was no fist bump being had. He goes, no, yes, we win. We are doing this. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, it's not like that. It was interesting to be a part of that, because I just assumed that Arturo kind of did it for the fans.
No.
Even on the warm-up pairs. Thank you. Thank you, Dick. Even on the warm-up pairs. Yeah, I made those warm-up pairs look good. Thanks. I'm a great practice bowler. Andrew, look up to Chris. I could never admit that right now. When he retires, ask me that question again.
Fair enough.
Oh,
I watched a lot of Chris Barnes growing up. Yes. Sundays on television.
When you're a wee child. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, watching him check his footing after missing that pin right, I learned all those moves from Chris.
That's the Brian Voss and Duke maneuver.
A little bit. There was a couple of Chris Barnes ones.
That's what I told Von Kruger when I first joined the PBA Tour. He said to me, "What's your ambition?" I said, "To be good enough to blame every bad shot on the approach."
Oh my God.
Still not there.
What's your ambition? Oh, that's good.
And everybody believes you.
Yeah, because
weren't that bad.
I mean, you've seen that video with me and Tommy talking through Duke and man, the approaches are kind of sticky over there. I bet if Duke misses this, he blames the approach, and then he just dead misses it, and then dead starts like going on.
Yeah, it's so
the greatest.
It's
Duke's
so
the best.
And so, I want to be the first to congratulate you, Andrew. You wash out. You just blame it on throwing the wrong ball. We all believe you. So you're there.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Perfect.
I'm learning.
I'm
learning.
Yeah, student of the game.
Yeah. Right. I got to make sure that I always have two of the same ball in the rack so I can continue to use it. Barnes and the stomp slide. The only thing that, if I wore glasses, right, I feel like I could imitate you very well. because there are times like I don't know who I was coaching a kid, and you had just bowled in Arkansas against AJ, and you throw a shot and you took your glasses off, and you gave it the whole like eye thing, and they said, "Wow, he looked like really frustrated." I said, "You think that's frustrated? I've watched those glasses fly. I mean, those things have been airborne for a long amount of time. That's nothing."
Mookie almost sued me in Reno.
Yeah.
I threw him from the approach, and he was walking by in the back.
Oh God.
Yeah. The hands on the face just stops me from using that hand to throw them. So I gotta.
Yeah.
I liken it to in Happy Gilmore when he goes and Happy's going for the putter throw.
Yeah.
That was Barnes with the glasses for a while. Nothing will ever beat Tulsa ever. When he trod on them after he'd thrown them off, and Jacobs was stood there and he said the most Chris question and the most Chris thing ever. I understand that it wasn't your fault. You don't have to, but you could have picked them up.
Or at least told me they were there. Obviously, I can't see them.
Jacob just left.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, guys, I am going to get my trek home started. I finished the motorball reviews today. We have a new one being announced tomorrow. Be on the lookout, everybody. Super exciting. Kid in the candy store when it comes to new bowling balls still. If I ever lose that, tell me to quit bowling because it really is cool getting a new ball for the first time. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks for being nice to me today and my team. Barnes, I know you have a lot of opportunities to get at AJ. It was nice of you to let us have one this year. And you guys feel free to share the story, but I'll tell you that match that we bowled in Illinois, Springfield, I think you had my boy riled up a little bit. I don't know if you remember it very well.
I don't remember him nearly as much as he does, I don't think. But what did I do there?
That's fair. No, just like it was one of those real strike moments. Of course, Simon on the TV show got him with it as well. Something Brooklyn.
Oh.
Yeah, we rolled a 2. I think we rolled a 2 or something. You hit him with it, and from at that point on, I thought you two were gonna fight each other. I'm never standing in between two people trying to fight again on the PBA tour. Between Ronnie Russell and Kirk Von Kruger, I thought I was gonna be a stomping ground. So I'll never.
I'm definitely not ever standing in front. I'm just getting the popcorn and sitting down. Let's go,
Stu,
fellas.
Stu, you're gonna have to save me a seat from now on. I'm gonna sit right next to you and cheer him on. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks.
All right, take care of yourself, mate. Thanks.
MVP.
Thank you.
See you later. All right. Let's cleanse the channel. Get back to it being a Storm channel. No, it's good.
Fantastic. Struck in the 10th. I don't know. We didn't really even get around to it, but he struck in the 10th, game 2 and game 3. Otherwise, it would have been 3-0. Then it got swept, and then did it again in game 4 or enough in game 4. This guy.
But yeah, we even forgot to mention it because Andrew doesn't do a very good job of self-promotion, but Andrew started his own YouTube channel, so check that out. He's doing some videos from Turbo's training center. He's actually focusing on some of the things that we should be doing, some instructional content, some things that are useful. So check that out.
More our wheelhouse.
Yeah. He says, if you really want to contaminate the channel, get a swag guy on. We've actually had a swag guy on the channel. We had Anthony Lavery on when he was a swag guy. There isn't, but there is way more demand for motive. So it's nice to have guys on. I mean, it's been a motive week. We had old Phil Doutright there on earlier on in the week, Dick Allen.
We made him check into Gianna. That was he brought her up, and there was one thing that I actually ended up watching the show. I watched it live, but you can't hear any of the other stuff that's going on. How calm and relatively centered, I guess would be the word, She wasn't looking like she was struggling to say the right thing. She was just saying what came to mind. And then to watch the video that the PBA put up about her mom, who is like, and now as a parent, I do my best, but that's what I look like on the inside. Like a lunatic. You have so much energy and you want so badly for things to go right for your kid. And she seems so relatively in the moment and just enjoying the moment. It's not too big for her. And basically every shot she threw up her hand, you went, well, that's online. That's online. That's online.
Yeah, pretty much the only bad shot she threw was the first shot she threw.
Yeah, she threw the first one dead through the face. And then after that, it was strike or 10 pin every time.
I mean, I was watching it and I was like, can Bug Kroll's year get any better? He had a 5 count and a 7 count and he was still alive with a chance to win. And I'm just like, what did this guy do? I mean, he is the smilingest, happiest guy all the time. But still, I was like, what deal did he make to have this year happen? Like, and that's the only tournament where 2 relatively bad things have happened to him this year, because he 9-pinned late on to not win the division that he shouldn't have been in anyway.
Well,
now he would have qualified from our division with his score,
right?
But he had a chance to win the open division. Pays 25,000 for first, and because he was a PTQ guy all year, and it's from the first of the year, he was in the open division. So I'm like, is this guy going to win 25,000 a year? Because he bowled the same day I bowled, or the day I bowled after they bowled. They bowled in the morning. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Bug, great year. Prather, just a amazing performance, actually. Like his first 2 shots, he basically just hummed it at the head pin because he needed to get 7. And then was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to do this. And he needed it. It gets to that round in that tournament where everybody strikes and one person gets 9 and they're out.
Right.
And that round was the one he decided to go with the ball change. He went for a pretty huge ball change for him from that one attention star that he seems to have used the entire year. That silver one. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Cool. It was a cool show. I think it's a little slow. They might think about getting rid of a few more people in the first rounds or whatever.
Yeah, there's a few too many people in it. That was our thought. I sat and watched it with Linda last night. And one, she met Gianna's parents, and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're the best kind of parents. They're super happy, super excited, and super nervous. But that they're not the over the top demanding, and that shows in her, because she doesn't seem to feel any pressure coming from anywhere. She's just, hey.
No, Nathan was has had interactions with her a few times, and he was saying to me, he goes, "There's no chance. She's just not phased by the moment at all." Yeah, a couple of string pin regionals coming up.
No titles, but just
I totally don't understand why there's no titles. I don't get it. Do you really understand why there's no titles?
I think until they have enough data. The one question I did ask was if they decided after they had the data that, yes, we're going to go ahead and move forward with this on a regional level, that they're retroactive the regional titles, which seemed fair to me. But at this point, I don't believe that's the plan.
I actually personally think that's worse, just from a different way. Only because I think that part of winning is knowing that you're going to win. I think there's a certain cachet that comes with winning a tournament. So a bit like when Scott Norton won the Players and then retroactively it became a major. Whether you think that tournament was worthy or not, it's just not the same.
True.
Like, it just isn't. Like, so to me, anyway, I feel like it should be a title. All the same people are bowling. And the idea is to beat. To me, a title is about beating the level of competition. And you're still beating the same guys. So I don't really see that it matters too much.
I am interested to see, we had a 51 down in Florida and got to watch those guys on it. I didn't end up bowling in it, but I did watch it, and there wasn't a whole lot that was crazy. There's less scouts. And some of the guys, Ian Schaefer's a pretty infamous critique on a lot of things, and he was fairly okay with them.
Who was that? Sorry,
Ryan Schaefer.
Yeah,
and of one of the few shots that did look affected by pins or strings is he had a scout coming across, and clearly the string held up, before it hit the 10, and that was the shot to win for him. He needed that strike, and so he was still okay with it. Which
I think his argument was that shot should never strike. So the fact that it didn't strike on strings is actually a positive.
Right. And to be fair with his criticisms, most of the time he is consistent. There is some, it's not just a blanket most of the time.
Yeah.
And so
I think most people who complain a lot are actually fairly intelligent. It's just that people don't want to listen to it after a while.
Yeah. You get numb to it when it doesn't have any balance. So, Buff, yeah. We're checking boxes here. That's what we do, obviously. Very, very much a.
Why do you think we're highlighting this comment?
Yeah, we don't have a HR department in this place. So,
oh, dear.
Yeah, Duke was caught up more in the moment for sure. I have an in-house one, although she struggles to want to talk to me on occasion. I think more than a few guys have used Dean Hinnants over time. Probably the most high-profile guy.
I also think that good psychology comes from having belief in yourself. And if you're not practicing or have confidence in your technique, there's no amount of guy telling you that you're going to throw good shots is going to make you believe that. So I'm a little bit on the Bill Hall side of it. Andrew says he uses Hinnants. I believe that they have to go hand in hand. I don't think that a sports psychologist is going to make you a great bowler if you're not practicing all the time. So, yeah, I think that sometimes the best psychologist is the practice lanes. I think you think that as well, don't you, Chris? Like when you're at your best and you're feeling like you're practiced and you're confident in what you're doing and you're not like, yeah. If you don't know where one shot's going from one to the next, there's no convincing yourself that you're going to bowl well.
Yeah, throwing shots when it matters and doing all that, and and I know my TV thing is what our TV thing, but to get to those moments, I didn't struggle a lot in those situations. But that was all from I've put in the work. I know I'm sharp. I'm competent. Whatever this is, and I could rely on that.
Mark wants to give me a hug right now because I've said that people should go and see him, not Hinnants.
Yep. If you throw it better, you'll feel better, and you'll think better.
And then, look, Linda's playing the other side of the game.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think they can make you look at it different, and that's the plus side.
For me, I agree.
The practice led into true confidence because I put in the work, so I knew internally that's how I knew. I think that's how Patrick worked. And when Patrick couldn't practice as much, then it didn't matter how good he threw it. And he looked like he was throwing it fine to the naked eye, but he didn't believe that at all once his knee was.
PA was also very anti the psychologist guys. Because he'd been around Lonnie a lot and he felt like the psychologist guys had fucking ruined Lonnie.
Too far the other way.
Because he got so wrapped up in all the things that he had to do that way that he just wasn't wrapped up in doing, it just, so I don't think that it's a strong way, one way or the other. I think that at times PA bowled, and he looked like he was the toughest guy in the field. And then maybe if he'd have had a psychologist guy, he'd have still bowled for another 3 or 4 years after it. Or maybe his knee was so mopped that he was fucked anyway, so it didn't really matter. So I think that whatever makes you feel good. I mean, Andrew has gone through some ups and downs. He's saying he's spoken with Dean Hinnitz, and Andrew threw great shots when he needed to. He had a process. He bowled really well in the double show also when they won. So yeah.
Yeah. This is the hot button topic. Should non-champs event count for a title? I don't know about hot button, but there's certainly a group that is not a fan of that. Locally, we're supposed to practice to get better. Oh yes, my favorite in-house psychologist advice.
And you don't mean skip a chair across the concourse.
No, that's not what she means. She's not a big fan of that. As it turns out, who knew?
Oh dear, I get it. I like my Thursday mornings chatting away to you, Chris. We haven't had however bad our weekend went. It's disappeared by then, so we're always
gone by now, right?
We've got over hump day. We're on the roller coaster back to it being another good weekend.
We've gone through it too, because at the beginning our relationship was different. Now you're my hype guy, talking me off the ledge, on Mondays.
Yeah.
And Anthony Simonson doesn't strike me as someone who reads books on how he should feel.
I don't think you really needed to continue after you said books.
Jesus.
And that's not a knock at Simon's intelligence. He's very smart. But the only thing that my mind Simo reads is manuals on how to fix pin sets.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. Like I don't think he's big on the story time.
Well, in the generation, why would you read?
To be honest, I don't really read books anymore either.
I used to read a lot and not nearly as much. So
I even bought a Kindle, and I think it's the worst thing ever. I hate it. I hate reading on the Kindle. There's something about reading an actual book that it feels like you're completing some of it, whereas you just tap.
I used to read so much, I would bring multiple books on trips, and so I like the Kindle from that standpoint.
100%.
From space.
Practicality-wise, I'm just saying, the actual doing it.
Book. Yeah. If you're from a different area, it's B&B, thanks for encouraging it. He's back. This gentleman bowled his first PBA 50 and struggled.
He had the huge super chat.
Yeah. I forgot how to bowl it. It is. Everybody has a plan until the first time they get punched in the face. And that was no joke. It was a tough one. So I wouldn't let that one completely discourage you.
I was about to say, it's the one where you're bowling and you keep going through the face and you're just like, it's not that hard, get it to the right, and then you wash out. And then you're like, shit just got real fast.
Oh no. I didn't do that at the ITRC. No, it didn't. Oh.
To be honest, there's usually Facebook groups. Maybe the only person I know who is at any point lived in Alabama was AJ Rice. So maybe just put out to some of the better bowlers in Alabama. Just ask them, because for us, we have the Southwest Bowlers group. We have one for Austin. There's quite a few of those where look at some of the bowling centers as well, because you can see where they've posted. Especially private centers, non-chain centers, they tend to run quite a few tournaments, especially in Texas. So I imagine it's the same in a lot of other places. Same in Arizona as well. The non-chain places were the ones that are running most of the tournaments.
Yeah, there's normally one or two guys that run the majority of things, and then And so find that guy, follow him. So you're saying Simo's a nonfiction fan? Ben said he had the nerve of the cleanest he'd ever seen. Yeah, he's legit at it, no doubt. Corey says, or instead of thinking about your shot, you can just say smoke and mirrors and throw off the guy you're bowling against. Yeah, but you got to be striking. You got to strike and convince them that you're just getting lucky. Because bowlers are the ultimate contrarians. If you say you're lucky, they'll say you're not, even though they think you're lucky. So
here you go. Beef and Barnzy fans to the rescue. Chris Martin, frequent contributor, says, I live in Alabama. There are some tournaments in Dothan all along.
If you could, Chris, post where they put them up at. And we'll do our best here of letting people know where tournaments are, especially on this. This is a perfect spot on Thursdays. What's coming up? So
anyway, update. Shiny Ion Max. We might have a new contender. I think this is going to be the strong ball in my bag, the one that's above like Absolute Power / XL.
By the way, Robert Eddy, Ion Max. This ball's your jam.
Yeah. Like, because for me, the gem never really was that for me. I just couldn't use it very much.
Yeah.
Like when I say use it very much, it was like I could really only use it game 1 or game 1.5, and then I had to change out of the ball. And even if it's better the first 5 frames, I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of those first 5 frames to not have the ball change a little later on. For me, the reality was that ball for the long time. Harsh reality didn't really replace that for me personally. So I've been kind of struggling with that gap. Whether it's the cover, whether this is the lower asymmetrical diff, whatever it is, I like it with this Ion Max. I feel like it's more continuous than the other big balls. I shined one up, went with a slightly shorter buffer, which is with one of the things I did with realities. I kind of used it threw it straight on Monday. Shot 800, and then Tuesday night bowled at Mel's. I was 530 for 2 with it, playing 15 boards further left. So, no, not for me. The thing that I like about the Max is it has a much longer.
What about Harsh Reality Pearl rather than Ion?
No, I'm gonna get to that. I'm saying that for me, the Max has because it's a little slower, it has a much longer hook window. Mm-hmm. That for me, because I use speed a lot to change how much I want the ball to hook, is very important for me. It's kind of difficult to use balls with short hook windows, which is what the Reality Pearl is, because it skids and then it really hooks. When I throw that slower, I make that hook closer to me. It doesn't necessarily hook more, it just hooks earlier, and then it becomes a little bit difficult to control. I like to see that longer, more rounded shape because that helps me use my skill sets. I used Smooth Edge and that and Step 2. I think they're fairly interchangeable, so I've used both recently. Actually, on the Ion Max, I used Step 2, but I have used Smooth Edge as well recently, and they've been very interchangeable for me.
Adam says, any other bowling balls to accommodate Ion Max, Idle Pearl, and Summit Ascent? You like the DNA in that, up in that.
Yeah. I mean, for me and Chris are a little different with the balls we've been using recently. For me, I like Ion Max a lot. I like Absolute Power a lot, DNA Coil, Ion Pro. All of those 4 have been really good for me. It is very storm orientated, not other brands within our, but those 4 have been very good for me. I don't mind the XL also. I just prefer the Absolute Power. But XL is good in places for me where I want to go a little straighter through the pins.
Okay.
Because it kind of hook stops a little bit more. And I think that there are some spots where the straighter through the pins, I think, is really good. And it can be straighter through the pins, even when you're hooking it a lot. I think that's a misconception. Like, basically, if Chris is really good in a spot, straighter through the pins is usually really good. Because that's what Chris is really good at. And generally, if you're striking a lot, like at Plano, I think having a lot of angle going through the pins at Plano isn't usually very good. It might be a bit better now, but previously, like, even when you were hooking it, it was still better to make it hook. And it's so easy to ring 10 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stu's the only person I like listening to from Phil or Richie. Have you fellas shined up a Sublime Focus? Yes, I have. And I actually like it a little. It fits in a different slot. It becomes a medium, more of a medium control type ball, kind of a benchmark type ball.
I mean,
it's a little strong as one out of the box.
I think me and Chris are somewhat, maybe I'm shortening his career because I'm trying to convince him to bowl like me, who was a 40th in points guy, and he was a 10th in points guy when we first started this type of conversation. I'm dragging him down to my level, but I just, with the way the lanes are now, I don't necessarily have a gap very often for a symmetrical ball that's as strong as Sublime Focus or Phase 2. I just use an asymmetrical ball there.
Yeah.
So we kind of spoke about this the other day, didn't we? About if you use the asymmetrical ball, you can get almost the same amount of hook, but with a kind of a little cleaner cover. So it gives you a little bit more versatility, I think. I've heard that
react gloss should be taken off the shiny balls. Should it be taken off and something else replied?
No. I think the worst thing that happened to Reactor Gloss was that it came out right at the point that Storm were trying to get on the same page with USB-C. So Reactor Gloss got blamed for a lot of things that wasn't necessarily anything to do with Reactor Gloss. So for me, the DNA coil has Reactor Gloss on it.
Yeah.
And that ball's the best ball we make.
I haven't seen necessarily, like I have been with companies before where the first thing you did was take the polish off. And lots of times you didn't reapply any polish, you just got it smooth. But I guess if you really don't like how it rolls and you take it off and you don't like it, though you still want it shiny, you can try the smooth edge and see how that looks for you. We've used a little bit after the fact. Yeah, React to Shine is what I still used. And mostly just because that's what I still had.
Yeah, because they've got Reactor Gloss now and that's the thing. If you do it on the spinner yourself, it won't be the same finish as it is in the bowl as it is in
I use React Shine because that's what I've been using for 3 or 4 years, and so I knew what it was going to be when I at home, and so I just didn't change. I did order some smooth edge because now we've tested a couple of balls that have it on it, and it's pretty good. Can you confirm if Storm is making a phase AI?
We cannot.
So,
so just to give you like in simple terms, right? The machine that they polish the balls with at the bowling companies, and I imagine I haven't been in another plant, but I imagine that they're somewhat similar. The machine that they polish the balls with at Storm is the equivalent of taking your car through a car wash, right? Size-wise. So you can't make your car the same as the car wash does by using a hose pipe and your own sponge. It's a bit the equivalent of that. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be worse. Like, guys who hand wash cars do a way better job than they do. Like, if you do your balls by hand, they're going to be more consistent than they are coming through that machine. They're just not going to be the same as coming through that machine.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Brunswick once upon a time had a big guy on a buffer wheel So that was probably the closest to what you could recreate. Now, at that time, their balls generally rolled terrible with polish on it. This is 20 years ago. So it didn't really matter that you could recreate that process because you didn't want to. But by what Stu's saying, because of that, if you like how the balls are out of the box, you just leave them like that. You don't take it off and then redo it.
I do feel like we were a little bit responsible for some of the stuff with the reactor gloss, because we thought that was part of the problem also. And
then a couple balls came out with reactor gloss that we liked.
Yes.
And so it didn't seem to be.
But once we had more conversations, I think it was just a combination of Storm adapting to USB-C and what they wanted and didn't want and whatever else. So I think that almost Storm could have called that product something else and just used the same product and nobody would have noticed. Yeah, reactor gloss, in my professional opinion, I love using that with bowling, by the way. That's my favorite thing now. In my professional opinion, that's not an issue at all. Like Chris, another ball that Chris really likes, the Blackout.
Yeah.
The Rebo.
Yeah.
It comes with reactor gloss, and a lot of people have liked that ball.
Right.
So
here's an informational question, and then we'll wrap things up here pretty quick. But it's a question for you for a long time. When a pro bowler bowls on a long pattern, they would shoot straight closer to the pocket. Why don't they shoot it more from right to left? Well, on a house shot, generally there is a lot of friction to the right. But on the PBA Tour, when they bowl long patterns, there's still a lot of oil to the outside. So your break point has to move closer to the head pin. And throwing it to the right just means it's going to stay straight.
I think he means like pointing it off the corner.
Right. And that's just because it's out of bounds on the Pro Tour versus on a league shot where there's, relatively the house patterns are fairly long, 42 to 44 feet in a lot of places. But there's no oil right of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to angles, right? And yes, if we threw the perfect shot, it may well be easier throwing it over the right gutter at the pocket. You would create better angles, but you'd have no miss room. Because if you were to miss right, you wouldn't clip the head pin. Whereas if you are to bowl on a long pattern and you get closer to the head pin from the left, if you miss a little right, you've got a good chance of still hitting the head pin light and getting a strike. So it isn't necessarily anything more than it just gives you better angles for when you miss. Yeah, I think that's more what it comes down to. And there are some long patterns where bowling further right and throwing it and knowing that you've got almost unlimited hold, you can kind of take out missing right because you've got so much hold left that you're not going to miss right. And if you do once in a while, you just kind of take your medicine and go, well, that's cool. It's just not very often.
Right.
I'm thinking back to me and Kevin McCune bowled straight on Shark doing that.
Yeah.
Throwing it pretty hard, getting it to hook in the front. And so there are times that it works. It's just in general, you just, like Chris is saying, once you miss right, getting 3 doesn't loosen anybody's swing up. Ever.
No, you have to be pretty good at playing straight or throwing it right to left, which most of the guys with 500 RPMs don't have much experience throwing it straight.
And most of the guys who are a little overweight, like myself, it's a little hard to throw it right to left.
So, yeah, Walter and I actually bowled a 3-game match on Shark where we both played to the right of 10. But that's because they were so hard from left that was a better play. It doesn't happen very often.
And sometimes the other thing as well is when you're bowling a match, as you know better than almost anybody, the object is to beat the other guy by 1.
Yeah.
It ain't to score 100 more than him in one of the games. So it doesn't really matter if it's way better to bowl to the left. You just have to beat the other guy. And sometimes just chasing him around the lane and going, I'm just better than you, isn't really a bad tactic. There are times when it's why on earth does he think that's a good idea? I'm just going to bowl over here and win. That happens, but not that often. a lot of the time, the versatile guys are much lower. Like, I'd rather just be in the same part of the lane as you because I think I'm just better than you. So that's all the tactics of matches, though.
Yeah, that's a different thing from just qualifying, for sure. So
yeah,
attention stars another ball with react gloss that there's some guys that really make that one go. So, all right, well, I believe we're on for next Tuesday.
What with?
A show.
We can have PA on at some point. He asked me if he could come on again.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I think that just became a narrative. I think it's just more of not liking it shiny, period. Which, for a long time, everything came out of the company, out of the factory, rolled really good as is. Right now, to fill some gaps, some people are taking shiny ones and making them a little bit duller, and vice versa. So,
our number one fan says yes on PA. Yeah. So,
all right. Hey, well, join us next Tuesday if you would. And in between now and then, good luck this weekend at all your tournaments and whatever you might be doing. And please support the sponsors, support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Niner Global, Cool It, Bowler Smart, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and Platinum Forward. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
Welcome.